Hey everyone, I'm really excited to be today in the Strategy Factory and here at Cascade, and I would like to thank Lucas for inviting me. My name is Dimos Papadopoulos, and short for Dimos actually, and I'm currently a product manager for PepsiCo eCommerce, and I live in London. So I have worked across different e-commerce businesses or industries through different geographies as well across Europe, and there is one common belief across all of those businesses that pricing can literally make or break your business. So a low price actually could prove very fruitful for some of the companies because they can attract demand and they can amass huge amount of sales. But a higher price can also prove very, very efficient because it can lead to premiumization, it can bring to an improved, let's say, consumer perception, as well as better margin for the sales. So there is multiple strategies that you can take actually in order to reach the proper pricing and the most effective for your business. However, what is right for one company is not right for another. And let's be honest, e-commerce has the power of democratization because essentially a consumer has a strength. With a single search, they can search different products, different competitors of yours or services in order to understand which one is the best value for them. So in today's session, we're going to discuss some top, let's say, tested e-commerce strategies, and then we're going to discuss what could be, let's say, a most efficient strategy for your business to apply to. Let's go at the first, actually. So the first one is the most straightforward, and it's the best for small businesses. It's literally a stable percentage of increase next to the price for the cost for the product to produce. So a lot of businesses, they just amass the product costs and then they put a percentage on top, which is usually roughly double the wholesale value, which is practically the profitability that they will get upon the purchase of the product. This specific strategy could prove very useful for some small businesses. However, it can result to a very low price for some products, or it can also lead to a much higher product price than its value, actually, because the business doesn't really control. The second strategy is the manufacturer's suggested retail price. This is typically a good strategy for small businesses starting out because essentially they take the de facto price that the manufacturer provides or the suggestion, which might prove also useful across the industry standards. It can provide standardization and it can also provide a very good collaboration and even, let's say, respect among the different relationships between you and your business and also the manufacturer side. However, this is also a not 100% efficient strategy because it is hugely dependent on the individuality and personalization of the business. What a manufacturer might perceive as a fair price for the product maybe doesn't fit your specific e-commerce needs because maybe you have international shipping, or maybe you provide eco-sustainable packaging, or maybe you have different routes and different, let's say, costs related to your own business or the way you operate and the taxes and legal implications. So it can prove rather complex occasionally, but also it can be very effective to maintain relationships. Another specific strategy that is very useful is the competitor pricing. So this is one very, very common. You search your competitors, your top, let's say three to five competitors, and then you really base and anchor your price either in the middle or a bit lower or a bit higher. It purely depends how you want to be perceived and what kind of marketing you're going to run, because they are key to navigating this tactic successfully. You can either be perceived as more economical and maybe accessible to the public, or you can even be perceived more qualitative and more premium as an essence. It really depends. You don't want to be perceived as too premium because it might lead to businesses thinking that you are a bit greedy, and you also don't want to be too economical because it might be believed that you don't have very good quality or maybe you're considered cheap. Another fourth strategy is known as actually price skimming. Essentially, it's a very good strategy for bigger businesses which are very, very high in the innovation scale. So, for example, businesses like Salesforce or businesses like Apple, Microsoft, they employ this kind of price strategy. And why they do so? Because when they launch a product, due to its scarcity and due to the innovation that they have amassed across the years of knowledge, then they can actually price it in a very, very high scale. And the rest of the business cannot even keep up because they cannot offer similar product or service. Then eventually, when they start rolling out new features or new products in the same line, they tend to go lower and lower, which might lead to specific price profitability via the beginning, and then eventually it leads to a steady stream of purchases. This is a very, very proven strategy, especially for companies offering new innovation or technology and gadgets. And fifth strategy could be the other way around, actually. It's called penetration pricing. So what it practically is, you're entering a new segment, or let's say you're launching a new product, and you want to really test the waters. So essentially, you provide a much lower price, maybe even lower than the production cost, just for a few, let's say, segments or a few periods in order to understand how the product is performing. And once you have proven yourself and you have amassed specific consumers, then you really depend on loyalty. Upon that and upon penetration, you just assume that some of the consumers will continue buying because they are already, let's say, satisfied or happy with your product. So then eventually, when they become loyal, you can slowly increase your prices. And be careful, content is key in this kind of strategy. You can do very good product marketing content. You can run specific product marketing strategies in order to really excuse yourself for increasing the product price, and also to really remind them what kind of benefit they're getting or what kind of, let's say, value they're getting out of your product and why you had to increase prices. A sixth strategy, which is also very reliant to the seventh strategy I'm going to talk about, is a subscription level pricing. So subscription level is essentially taking a full strategy stream from a product which is about to sell at very specific time intervals. And then you actually assume that you're going to get the profit of a full year broken down in different periods rather than from a single purchase. Because in a subscription service, essentially they are going to rebuy the product and they are going to be constant stream consumers. This was pretty well with subscription, let's say, prices or consumer segments which are interested for specific types of apparel like underwear or socks, for example, or even with the foods and snacks or coffee subscriptions. So it works very well for those segments because they are repetitive prices, they are repetitive purchases, and that can really prove them well. A seventh strategy, which is very, very typical, is the bundle pricing. And it's similar to subscription pricing, but not necessarily, as it can provide different segments grouped together for an improved value. For example, let's say that you are a suit company, so then you combine it with a belt, and you combine it with the shoes, and you combine it with a tie, and then you really give a good value add and a good package in an improved price, rather than buying every single product on their own. In the full basket size, that increases the average value, and that increases also the consumer lifetime value eventually. And also it improves the profitability for your business, because otherwise the consumers wouldn't buy them as separate. An eighth strategy is called the loss leader strategy pricing. So this is pricing the product very, very lower, even lower occasionally than its production costs. Why would you do that, you'll say? Well, there is reliance actually, because some of the companies and some of the services they provide, they become very, very profitable in conjunction with their other products or services. So for example, let's talk the DVD player, or let's talk PlayStation. They become very, very effective at selling other products as well, rather than the console or the platform, because they sell games and then they sell on top different kinds of, let's say, memory cards, which can bring lots of purchases, and then they can also bring lots of profitability on top. A ninth strategy is very, very effective, but only for huge e-commerce businesses. It's a dynamic pricing model. This involves a lot of resourcing, usually, maybe even an analytical department being dedicated to that, but also an intelligent software service. And why it needs all of that? Because it takes into consideration algorithmic models and a full exercise to approaching pricing and a whole strategy behind it. So it takes multiple factors into consideration, like, for example, the time of the product to market, the supply chain, its stock levels at the warehouse, also historical data sets of, let's say, traffic and sales of the product, but also it takes external factors into consideration. For example, events in a country or specific city level events, and also weather or even traffic. And then it decides on the most successful and effective price for your products to be shown online. And the optimum profitability is being a given. A 10th strategy, and the final one actually, is a psychological one. I will call it psychological pricing because all of us get really, really influenced by some of those tactics in e-commerce. For example, pricing at odd numbers. A lot of us really, really prefer odd numbers to even numbers. So it is a human psychology actually. If a product is placed at $5, let's say, dollars or $7, it's perceived much cheaper than something in $8. And then pricing also at 1 cent less is very, very effective. This is hugely, let's say, apparent in retail, and you can really find it many times. So for example, in your major supermarkets, most products, they will cost $1.99 or $2.99, and they will never cost the full even number because that is perceived as a bit higher. And by signaling the lower number in front, it signals a better value for your money. Another strategy actually, which is very, very proven useful for all e-commerce businesses, and they tend to do a lot, especially for commercial campaigns, is the strike-through pricing. So typically they have the initial price for the product or the beginning price, and then they strike through that one and they give the new value actually. So that is perceived as a discount or as an offer or as a very good value for the money of the consumer because previously it was 50% more. Don't, let's say, stress too much. You can go for a combination. If you're not sure what would work in your business, I would say test it out, try out different strategies, and then you can even reach out and let me know how's it going for your business. A combination strategy could be actually combining different methods of the ones that we discussed. And one company that does it very successfully is SONY. For their PlayStation business, they usually do the scheming strategy. So they have the innovation, they have a very successful platform, and then when they go with the console live, it's very, very priced higher. What do? They tap into consumer segments like innovation seekers, gadget seekers, the gamers who have been purchasing the platform for years, and also on the ones which are higher in the innovation, let's say, angle. So by doing so, they amass a lot of profit via the beginning, and then slowly, years passing by, releasing more games, they just go into a loss leader profitability because they tend to even price it lower than its initial, let's say, cost to produce price. And why they do so? Because with all the games and all the collateral and all the other businesses that Sony amasses, they can really handle and get profit via various ways with the platform and the console itself in place. So regardless of what you decide to do, there is a very, very important thing to keep in mind. And actually, it's an e-commerce top secret I will share with you. You need to remember what a consumer is ultimately willing to pay is not really dependent on the price tag. You can do various things and you can do a lot of flashy things and marketing campaigns, but that doesn't help really convert besides, a few initial dollars. What really helps convert is the value that they perceive your product to be. So if they perceive it as being valuable to them, then trust me, they will for sure convert to the purchase. Otherwise, they will just avoid or even eventually bounce off your website. So I hope you learned a few of the new strategies that I share with you. I hope you employ some of them and let me know if you remain successful. Thank you and good luck.